glad to be here. My name is Susan Turney, and they asked me to talk a little bit about my disability, about disabilities in general and mine in particular. So obviously I live in a wheelchair. Do you know someone that lives in a wheelchair?
I used to have someone who lived in a wheelchair, my grandma.
Your grandma? And why did she have a wheelchair? You're not sure? Did she get hurt, or was she just kind of old and needed?
She was too old.
She was old? Okay, sometimes that's the reason, yes.
She couldn't
one of my friends that I met in preschool, his name is Owen.
Uh-huh.
And the reason is because he has disabilities also.
Uh-huh. Do you know what his disabilities were?
He cannot walk.
Yeah. And do you know if it was a spina bifida or something?
What's that?
Well, that's okay. There are various diseases that can attack your body and make you not be able to walk. So what happened to me was that I was in a car accident about 30 years ago. My daughter was about the age of your mom's, and I was about the age of your mom's, yeah. And my daughter was about the age of, she was 4 years old.
4 years old?
Right.
In a car accident?
Yeah. We were on a long trip with my mom, who was driving, and me, and I was resting in the back, and my daughter was in her seatbelt, thankfully, and my mom fell asleep. It was a very long drive. And she fell asleep, and the car left the road and flipped over and threw me out of the car. And
you got thrown out of the car?
Yeah, I got thrown out of the car, and the car kind of landed halfway on top of me. And so when I woke up, I saw a blue sky. And there were people there right away that, a whole bunch of them got together and kind of lifted the car and moved me out. Now the interesting thing was, at first, when you have a really, really bad hurt or injury, your body can go into shock. So at first, I didn't feel the pain. Later, I felt the pain. So, if you know where your spine is, can you touch your spine?
Yeah, it's right here.
Okay, all right. And sometimes we call it a backbone, don't we? But is it a bone that's like this, just a straight bone, like in your legs or something?
Yeah, it's just
No,
it's
not.
curved.
Well, it is curved, but also it's actually a whole bunch of bones stacked on top of each other. So would you come and help me? Now inside of your spine, maybe you can come and help too. Can you come and help? Okay, so make your fist like this. Okay, so that there's room, see, there's got to be room for the string to go down.
And also for your eye.
Okay, come over closer so he can have his, put your fists together so he can have his on top. Put yours up there too. Okay, you got enough room for a string to go down there?
Yep.
Okay, pretend this is your backbone and this is your spinal cord that goes right down the middle. Is it going through? All right, so it goes right down the middle, and it goes from your head, we should turn around, goes from your head all the way down here. And your nerves go off to the sides, and those are what help you move, right? Okay, thank you for helping, but so the spinal cord is kind of like, I used to say the telephone line, but nowadays we have cell phones, so that doesn't work. But the spinal cord is kind of like the electricity of your body, right? If you're trying to vacuum and someone pulls the plug, can you vacuum?
No.
No, you have to have the electricity hooked together. And that's with the spinal cord. So let's see, would you come and help? Would you come and help? Okay, we're going to pretend like this is the electric line. Well, this time you're going to hold the end. Go way over there. Okay, and you're going to hold this
Go by the
end.
chalkboard.
Can't go back there. Oh, that's what, that
Is that
he
enough?
doesn't have to go that far. Oh, you're gonna hold it right there? Okay. Oh, goodness, now I'm
It's
talking.
under the wheelchair.
I know. It's
And now it's
funny.
under the wheel.
All right.
I feel like tugging.
It's neat to have wheelchairs.
It's under
that-
the wheel.
Okay,
It's under the
now,
wheel.
would you come and help? Would you come and help? Okay, so it's gonna be the tree. Okay, so put your arms out like a tree. And let's pretend like somebody was not very wise. Turn sideways.
You.
There. Somebody was not very wise. Arms out like a tree. And they planted their tree right under the electricity line, or right by it, you know. Okay, so now a storm comes. Keep in a tree. Okay, now a storm comes. What's going to happen with the tree branches? They're going to be blowing in the wind. Make your tree branches blowing in the wind.
Oh, come on,
Blowing
Marty.
in the wind. Okay, and now, oh no,
someone with a little
it
bit
came
more
really
energy.
hard and it smashed down the electric line. Smash it down. All right, let it go. Let it go. All right. So if that happens, if a storm happens and there's no electricity to the houses,
Pew, pew.
We are all had no light.
yeah, what are you gonna do?
We
Can
would
you
have
turn
to
on your
use
lights?
Huge fire.
Can you turn on your lights?
We would
No.
have to use flashlights.
Maybe, and you might get awfully cold with no furnace, or you might not have hot water or electricity to cook with, so kind of bad, okay? Well, our spinal cord is like that electric line. It goes all the way from the head, and it goes all the way down to the bottom of your spine, and of course there's electric lines, or nerves that go off to the sides. And if that spinal cord gets injured, then
That would be
part of your body's not going to work
not gonna
anymore.
work.
Then
Right.
you won't, and then if you like break your leg or something, you won't feel it because the nerves don't connect.
Right. Like part of my lower body, I can't feel anything. Now, if you move my bones, I can feel my skeleton being moved.
Okay, move you.
But let's see. So, I was going to show you. Okay, so I drew this chart to kind of show. Up here is my brain, and this is my spinal cord, or spine. You can see how it's kind of curved, right? Because if you jump and it's straight, you could hurt yourself. So this allows it to spring up and down so you won't hurt yourself. So if you get hurt way up here, then a lot of things in your body don't work. If you get hurt further down here, your spinal cord injury, a lot more things can work. And right about here is the difference between, up here is quadriplegia. Quad means four, so that means a person could not use any of their four limbs. And down below here would be paraplegia. That's only partly paralyzed, okay? Plegia is paralyzed. So my injury was about T12, but it wasn't completely cut there. And so I have a little bit of my legs that still work. So, I can do a little bit, but not too much. So let's see. Oh, we forgot about wiggling toes. Would you come back up and see if you can wiggle your... First, he's going to think about wiggling his fingers. Okay, put your arms out, and you think about wiggling your fingers, and the message goes out here. And do your fingers wiggle? Yes, they do. All the way. Now he's going to think about wiggling his toes. Okay, thinking about wiggling his toes in his brain, and the message goes all the way down, 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 and down into his legs, down into his... I see his toes are wiggling! All right, very good, thank you. But since I'm a paraplegic, so part of my body works and part is paralyzed, I can wiggle my fingers. But if I think about wiggling my toes, the message goes down here and it can't get through, and so it goes all the way down. It doesn't go all the way down here, and I can't wiggle my toes. fulfill my job.
That means that part of the body's broken.
Yeah, there's an injury back here, so that the lower part of my body doesn't work correctly. Now, of course, every injury is different. So, you know, different people are paralyzed at different places. And so, you know, some quadriplegics can use a little bit of their arm, and like I'm a paraplegic, but I can use a little bit of my legs, you know. Every injury is different, but that's the way with everything, right? Okay, so this was about 30 years ago that I was in this car accident. And when I woke up, I knew that I was paralyzed. I could just tell. I knew that my legs were paralyzed. And you know, I just had the thought, this is something that I can handle. I knew that was kind of strange because I didn't know what all that was going to mean, but I knew it was important to keep thinking, this is something that I can handle. And so I didn't have to worry about, why me? Or, oh, if only. I didn't have to worry about those things, so I could get better a lot faster. It was just an accident. Sometimes accidents happen, don't they? It was just an accident. But I do think that Heavenly Father allowed it to happen because He wanted me to help other people. If people see my disability and they think, wow, if she could do that, maybe I can do something else. Because we all have some challenges, right? Mm-hmm. And so I think it's my job to show that you can make the best of a disability. You know, whatever your challenges are, you can do the best. And I think that's what Heavenly Father wants me to show people. So I can choose my attitude. I could choose to sit around and mope and expect everyone else to do things for me. Hey, hey. Or I could say, all right, I have a lemon. Forgot to bring a lemon. I can make lemonade, right? Here I am. Okay, there's a lot of things I can't do, but there's still a lot of things I can do. I'm right here. I can choose to make the best of it, right? Bad things happen in life. Some things bad will happen in your lives. And when they do happen, I hope that you will choose not to sit around and mope, but to make the best of it, right? Make lemonade out of lemons.
That sounds good, make lemonade.
Yeah, I like lemonade. Okay, so she asked me to talk a little bit about wheelchair sports. And, you know, I can swim, and if I have a paved trail that's not too tough, I can hike and do some of those things that I enjoy. At certain brave times in my life when I was younger, I did some camping and stuff, you know. But, you know, there are a lot more brave and go-getter people in wheelchairs than me. So I looked up online and found, it says the 15 most popular wheelchair sports.
Ooh, I'm
that people do in a wheelchair. And I had to write them down, okay? One is speed sailing. So they're on a little sailboat. I wish I had the pictures or could show, you know. But they're on this boat with a sail, and they're trying to go as fast as they can, okay? So speed sailing. Another was called motocross, but really what it was that they were in these wheelchairs, and they usually have special sporty wheelchairs for that, not clunky old grandma ones. And they would go to skate parks, and they would do all kinds of tricks in where they do the skateboarding and everything. So that was amazing to see. Some people learn how to play tennis with their wheelchair.
Oh, that's easy. You just sing in neutral.
Well, you know,
I don't think that
the ball
would be
doesn't
very
always
easy,
come in one
Caleb.
spot. You got to move around to get to the ball.
That would be easy.
And you know, if you're trying to go with one arm, like this, whoa, 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 you know, it's hard to steer when you're going with just one arm. Okay, but some guys are really good, okay, and they can do that. Basketball. I've seen them playing basketball where they're dribbling the ball, and you got to be careful that they usually have their legs kind of tied underneath here so that they don't have all this sticking out in the way. And they're dribbling the ball and shooting the hoops and everything. It's a lot further to shoot the hoop when you're sitting down than when you're standing up.
You can't jump up and make a lay-in, can you?
I doubt there's very many that have done that.
Yeah.
A couple others I was surprised about was rugby, which is kind of a contact sport, but some people in wheelchairs play rugby.
That's a
and
shocker.
soccer. They play softball. They have wheelchair races. Sometimes that's kind of fun.
I'm not so surprised about that.
Yeah. I have a wheelchair race if we're going downhill. Not uphill. Okay, they do skiing, like on the snow, and snowboarding.
How do you ski and snowboard?
Snowmobile, because they have special skis and special snowboards that they can sit on and strap on, and then they can ski down the hill, and they learn to be very good at them, you know? And brave. Let's see, and water skiing is kind of the same. They have a special board that they can ski on the water, and surfing. And tandem skydiving.
Skydiving?
Yeah, so they're jumping out of the plane and tandem, meaning they have a partner, and they're coming down and, you know, gonna pull the parachute before they hit the bottom.
I think they might have springs on the bottom most likely.
I think that they have parachutes just like everybody else.
Yes, but it would still kind of go.
Well, when you're falling that far, springs aren't going to help you.
Yeah, that's right.
In fact, if it went boing, it probably hurt you even worse. Okay, one I was surprised about was mountain biking. Now, I've tried to hike some trails, and they're problematic. If they're not paved and wide, you know, they're pretty hard to do. But I did see a picture. This guy had a bike that had 4 wheels, so it was kind of made for mountain biking. Just like mountain bikes, you know, are made a little different than your street bike. So, you know, by adapting all these, you know, you have people that they want to live a full and happy life. And so they think in their minds, how can we adapt this so I can do it, right? Or how can we adapt it so my friend can do it, because I want them to be able to do fun things. Another one was fencing. You know what fencing is, where you have the swords, sword fights.
Ooh, yeah, that's.
And paragliding, where you have the parachute thing up on the top and you're gliding underneath of it and flying on the air, right? So it's pretty exciting, except for old grandmas that are scared of heights. So, you know, like I say, I can do swimming and certain hikes, and you can still play musical instruments. You can have hobbies, etc. You can still have a happy, full life if that's what you choose to do. But, you know, I do have some limits. If you can imagine, if I tried to vacuum the floor, I'm trying to push the vacuum, and instead of the vacuum moving, my chair is moving back and forth.
Yeah.
So I have to lock it, vacuum this little spot, and lock, you know. So I don't really vacuum too much. And mopping is kind of hard to do from a chair. You can imagine sitting on a chair and reaching the dishes, or cooking on the stove. So, you know, there are some limitations and some challenges. As I've gotten older, I have to be more careful about my joints, because, you know, if your legs can't do it, your arms have to do it. And my arms used to be huge. They used to look like legs. But my legs that can't work, they have done what's called atrophy. So they have gotten smaller. It's kind of like your brain. If you never use your brain, if you never exercise your brain,
it gets smaller.
It gets weaker. Well, it doesn't necessarily get smaller, but it gets weaker. And if you don't use your muscles, they get weaker. And so, you know, weak down here, but strong up here, right? I used to be pretty good at arm wrestling too.
Oh, honestly.
But when the boys got to be a little older in junior high, I quit arm wrestling. Okay, so it is hard to do a lot of things in a chair, and they do have beach wheelchairs, but you can't roll yourself. You have to have someone push you. And, you know, it doesn't work too good to roll a regular chair in the sand and stuff. And so, you know, it was really hard to cut my lawn, so I replaced.
But you did it.
replaced
I
my
saw
lawn.
you out there doing
Yes, and I grumbled. And I finally replaced the lawn.
I know, you put-
I love grass, but, you know, I couldn't deal with it. I couldn't take care of it. So. And I used to have some fruit trees that were espalier. I wanted to give it a try, and I'm glad I did, but I just found that it was just still too hard for me to reach up and keep the branches cut low enough. Yeah.
How do you get on with it?
Well, I do what's called transferring. If you want to bring a chair over, I'll show the boys how I can transfer.
it. She drives too, so
Yes,
it's
my
like she
car.
gets in and out of her car too, you guys.
My card is, put it on this side if you would. Watch how this nifty wheelchair works. Ta-da!
Oh, you like take them off and then you like try and pull it out.
Ta-da! It does all kinds of things, you know. These can go up and, well, you know,
could
all kinds of
use them
things.
and then put them
All right,
on.
so I try to get about 45-degree angle. This is almost like more like a 90-degree angle. Put my brakes on because, you know,
Yeah.
I don't want the wheelchair going somewhere else while I'm in the middle.
Good, would it?
And then I just go like this, see?
Oh, wow.
So you can see my arms have to do a lot of the work.
I have to put the feet boots back on.
Yeah. Yeah.
Does it hurt when you stand?
You know, it is a complex issue about the feeling in my legs and feet because they don't have regular feeling. They have a different kind of what I call buzzy feeling, and sometimes it gets very intense and it can be spasmy, like all the time they're kind of buzzy. Usually during the day my brain kind of ignores it, but then at night then, you know, it's like the dripping faucet. You can't ignore it anymore. And so I have kind of buzzy feeling and kind of hot, burny feeling. You know, if you go outside and play in the snow and your feet get too cold and you come in and your feet kind of burn when they get warmed up. So that's kind of the feeling that I have. Yes?
I got an idea. You could like use those right there, and you could stand up and put them on the floor and then walk over to the chair.
You know, I have used crutches and braces before. They had long leg braces that would hold my legs straight, you know. And I can put a little bit of weight on my legs and make them stiff, but not enough to really walk. But, so it was long leg braces, and then I had crutches on my arms, and so then I would kind of walk that way. But that is so labor intensive, you'll get so tired, and that's why I got carpal tunnel in my wrists, so that, you know, I lost some of the feeling in my hands because it was too hard with the crutches and braces.
If you've walked on crutches, it's exhausting.
There are some guys that really get good at it. They're really strong in the upper body, and they whip around really fast on crutches and braces. Yeah, they swing through, you know, they put the crutches down and swing their body through, and it's really amazing to watch. But, you know, I'm an old grandma, and I didn't really learn how to do that. But the other thing, I used to have a walker. I thought I'll try a walker. But again, it was so much heavy work on my upper body that, you know, it just wasn't worth it. And the interesting thing is that people see you sitting, they think you have more disabilities than if you're up on crutches and braces, standing up. But the truth is, the wheelchair makes you free. If I have crutches and braces, my hands are full of crutches and braces. And I'm scared to death that there's gravel that's, my feet are going to slip out from under me and I'll fall down and get hurt. A couple of times, 2 or 3 times, the lock on the brace came undone, and then, yow, I can't trust my leg anymore because it's not stiff. So, you know, actually the wheelchair is a freeing thing. The old wheelchairs were not so much, but nowadays they are. Yes?
Where were you going on your trip?
Well, actually, we were driving home from a family reunion in Washington, and we were driving home to Utah, and the accident happened about kind of at the border of Idaho, and that's where a lot of people fall asleep because it's a long stretch right there, and so it does happen a lot. Yes?
Was there like a cliff or something?
Oh, what?
Was there like a cliff or something?
Not a real cliff, but you know, when you go off the road, there's usually a little bit of a down and up and that kind of stuff. So, you know, but when you leave the highway at that kind of speed, things can happen fast. And you know, after my accident, it was really, really scary to ride in a car. Because I just knew your whole life can change so fast. So be wise when you get to be car drivers, because things can change. It's like you're on a railroad train going this way, and then suddenly, whoop, over here you go in a different direction. So be very wise in the car. Wear your seatbelts and don't distract the driver. If you're the driver, don't get distracted. And don't fall asleep. Yes.
You mentioned at night the buzzy. Like, is there something that you can do to alleviate that, or whether it's the feeling of hotness or the buzzy feeling, so that you can? I mean, I think where we can associate, you know, restless legs, or you know, where you just can't shut down at night. Is there something you can do to get relief from that, or something that helps, or is it?
Usually, it's, you know, not spending too long. If you can imagine sitting in your chair all day.
Yeah.
Now, you might think it's fun to wheel around in a chair, and sometimes it is. And sometimes, you know, you can pop a wheelie, you know, and impress everybody. But if you cannot get out of your chair all day,
You would have
you got a bad case of tired sitting-itis. I don't want to say anything to it. But, you know, it's just hard to sit in a chair for 18 hours or something. And so shorter days with breaks between is better. You know, you just do the best you can. And sometimes it's a matter of laying down long enough that it finally calms down.
Okay.
It used to be that by morning it was kind of calmed down, and then I would take my bath, and that was the best time. My body felt so good. Then it was easy to fall asleep. Of course. But now they just hurt a lot, so I almost never get a good night's sleep anymore. Okay, so let's see. But our bodies are amazing. This has been a learning experience, and our bodies are so amazing. You know, we just don't realize, we take for granted how much our bodies can do. And I found out that even pain has a purpose. Because one time, I was wheeling, it was in the morning, and I was gonna go in, you know, get dressed and everything, and I was trying to push my chair, and I couldn't push it. What's going on? I looked down there, and my toe was stuck in the wheel. And that would have really hurt if I could feel it. So I managed to get it undone out of there, and I looked at it, it's bleeding. You know, toes bleed a lot. And I thought, oh dear, what do I do? And I realized if I could feel it, it would hurt, and I would automatically grab it. And you guys have probably taken first aid, haven't you? And you know that if something's bleeding, you want to put pressure on it to stop the bleeding. So that's what I thought. I better put some pressure on it and keep it up as best I can, right? Instead of having it lay down. And so then I got into the bathroom and kind of washed it off and got it bandaged and stuff. So pain tells you something's wrong. if you touched a hot stove and it didn't hurt, you wouldn't move your hand away, would you? So the pain helps you know that something is wrong. And even though we don't like pain, it can be helpful, okay? It's not very fun if you have chronic pain, etc., and you know what it's from, etc. That's bad news, but think about it. Next time you fall down and get hurt, it's your body telling you that, you know, don't do that again. Okay, so that's kind of my presentation. Were there any other questions? Yeah.
It's good you didn't get hurt. It's good you didn't feel it.
Oh, when I hurt my toe? Well, yes and no. If I knew I hurt it, you
That
know.
means you really
And another thing is, you know, I used to live in Idaho where it's very, very cold. And because my legs can't keep themselves warm, and I might not be aware how cold they were getting, then I'm at risk for hypothermia or, you know, it could be, if it was bad enough, it could be even frostbite.
the whole body.
But so well, if your legs get cold, the cold can creep up to your whole body.
Yeah.
So, you know, a lot of times when I get into bed, why, you know, talk about cold feet. Icy feet, you know. So, anyway, anything else?
Well, thank you so very much. We
Well,
appreciate
thank you.
you so very much. Can all of you boys tell her thank you?
Oh, I'm not done. I forgot.
What?
My grandson said, be sure and mention other disabilities.
Oh, yes, yes.
For
I need to know.
instance,
Yes.
my grandson has autism.
Yeah.
And some people think that's really scary, you know. But it has challenges, but it also has some good things about it. And so with his autism, it makes some of his school subjects harder. It makes it harder for him to sit still and to focus on things he's not interested. The things he's really interested in, he's very focused. But the things that he's not, it's hard. Yeah.
What is it?
Well, it's some sort of a difference in the brain so that some things are just, some parts of your brain just work differently or not as well, or can be delayed. In other words, he's gonna learn it, but maybe it might take longer, like language skills and that kind of thing. And what's it called, social cues and that kind of thing, okay? And it has a lot of similarities to ADHD, which you maybe know some kids that have ADHD, and it's, yeah, and it's hard to sit still, you know, and so that has some challenges, but you know, you can decide to learn strategies and make the best of it, huh? Another one is OCD, obsessive compulsive disorder, where, you know, things just bug you. You know, if there's a bump or a piece of trash or something or other, you just gotta pick it up, you know. Some things just really bother you, or some people, they just have to keep washing their hands and washing and washing. And you know, it's just because there's a difference in their brain that makes them that way. And you know, it's a challenge. But would we ever make fun of someone because they were acting kind of weird because of their disability? No. No. Nobody wants to have people make fun of things, especially for things you can't help. Right? Some people might have manic depression. That means when they're manic, that means they are full of energy and they accomplish everything like Superwoman. And then they get depressed. And then they're the opposite, and they're feeling so sad, they don't even want to get out of bed, etc. So, you know, that can also be just something that is chemical or something in the brain that isn't quite working right, and it can cause a disability. And so you guys, of course, are learning about how to treat people with disabilities. Never take it for granted. If somebody's acting weird, they might have a disability. So best not to make fun of people, even if they
Give them a break, give them a break.
Yeah. So now I think I've covered everything.
Well, I was thinking about blindness and deafness. You see a lot of people using sign language. Those are two disabilities that you can really see. But I think the ones that you mentioned are interesting because sometimes those aren't ones that are quite so visually aware until something, you know, happens or you interact with the people. So I think those were excellent.
Well, and one thing about autism, it's a spectrum. So some people, my grandson is high functioning, so some people might not even know that he has autism. But we know his kind of quirks and stuff, so we can tell. And then on the other end, there's people that are very, very autistic that really can't function in society. And so there's everywhere in between. And just like the spinal cord, you can have, you know, different injuries and it can affect you differently. So,
and we need to be aware of everybody and treat everyone fairly and understand and be understanding. And if you have a question, it's okay to ask in most instances, don't you
well,
think?
for me, I have no problem answering questions. It's hard to know because different people take it differently.
And if someone doesn't want to answer your question, then hopefully they would be polite enough and say, but as long as you're being respectful, I think sometimes people might want, I think some people, yeah.
But even blindness, you know, some people are very blind and some people
That's right, there's degrees.
A little blurriness and stuff. So
there's degrees, yes.
Yeah.
And some people are like colorblind and they can't
Yeah,
see colors.
that's true.
Right?
That's a disability of the
That's
type,
And
isn't
they're
it?
colorblind.
Yeah.
That makes me need glasses.
I had a friend that was my age when I was little, and her parents moved here to Vancouver so she could attend the blind school that we have here in Vancouver. And they moved in across the street, and every morning she walked herself to school, and she used and she was totally blind. She used the chain link fence as her guide and knew had the steps counted. And of course, you got to remember, this was 50 years ago before you had to worry about people taking kids and stuff, things like that. It was a little different situation. So she was able to go to school, walk herself to school every day in the mornings and walk herself home every night. So her parents treated her and wanted her to be able to be independent and to be able to take care of herself. So just like Sister Trini has said, if something happens or someone who's born with something, this friend of mine happened to be born blind, it's each person's responsibility to say, okay, what am I going to do? What am I going to do with this? This has happened to me in my life. What am I going to do? Am I going to sit and mope, like Sister Turney said? Or am I going to make the best of it and be the best person I can be?